Bismillah Rahman Rahim. My name is Ali Iftikhar. Welcome to my YouTube channel. Today, I have a special guest with me who is an expert in study visas. No, he's not a consultant, nor he went to Canada through a consultant. So, in fact, he is a normal person like you, like me, who made his way to Canada through a study permit and that too by himself alone. And before going live with him, I asked him a personal question, and he told me that he had two rejections for Canadian study permits back in the day when he applied through some consultants. And now, this time, he applied by himself and he successfully received his study permit, which is a great thing. So I have a couple of questions lined up with me, and let me introduce him. His name is Shajiullah, and he's also a YouTuber from Pakistan, and he's in Vancouver right now. And you'd be able to see his channel's link in the video title as well. And then also, I would leave his channel's name in the description as well. So if you would need further information about study permits, about SDS, Student Direct Stream, or if you have any other questions related to study permits, then I recommend that you subscribe to his channel and follow his videos, because he is giving out some amazing content, and he is going to be the next big thing. I hope that he's going to be the next big thing when it comes to study permits in Canada. So I would invite Shajiullah on the screen now, so that he can give you guys a brief introduction about himself. So, Mr. Shajiullah, how are you doing? And would you like to say a few words about yourself and about your journey?
Yes, thank you so much, Ali bhai. Thank you so much for taking me on the video right now. I would be glad to be a YouTuber and working with you alongside another YouTuber, obviously, going through very well. So I would go into my journey first of all. So like how I came here in Canada through international student stream. I would say I go back up in 2015. In 2015, I applied for Canadian student visa after my A levels. So the journey starts up here that I applied through a consultant, because whenever you are in a home country, you decide that you want to apply for a visa and you need to have a good consultant to ensure that you secure a visa. So applied in 2015 with a consultant, and unfortunately, the documentation, the financial conditions wasn't good at that time, and the presentation of the case was actually not good. So that became the reason that I was rejected for the Canadian student visa on the first go, and then applied for the second time. But unfortunately, due to, I would say, a childish behavior at that time, because I was only a 12th graduate, and because not having enough knowledge about the country where I'm going to, that was the reason I applied in another day for a second visa for the Canada, and I got the rejection within 24 hours. So that were the two main reasons, that I wasn't aware of my knowledge, like what I'm doing, what are my documentations were. So that was the reason for that. So unfortunately, I was rejected twice for Canada, and then I had to change my country, because being a young guy in Pakistan, I would say, majority of the people have like a destination for it, that we want to go outside, we want to go abroad, we want to study abroad, gain that international exposure and everything, and then you precisely go for it, right? Then to cut story short, again I went for an Australia this time, because at that time of point, many students were going Australia, and Australia was a second destination for the passport or a PR after Canada, obviously. So that was the reason. But this time through, I went it through another consultant, obviously, to be honest, and he secured me visa within 7 days for an Australia with the same profile I did for Canada as well. So this time I got the visa. I went to Australia, but unfortunately I had to came back because of some of the family concerns. My mother had an open heart surgery, and thoughtfully I came back. So that was the reason. I came back to Pakistan, and then I started, like, I took some break from my studies, from my further studies after my A levels, and hopefully joined ACCA, that is Associate Certified Chartered Accountant, that is related to us accounts and finance background. And this time I worked at an investment bank. I also worked at bit for accounting audit firm, and almost completing 3 years in Pakistan after that. Um, that was a great time, and I learned a lot, exposure, a lot of things during that time, and 3 years in Pakistan after like coming back from Australia. Then I researched on Canada because my final destination was Canada. This time I thought, let's give it a try. Hopefully, but this time I decided, like, I don't want to go for a consultant this time. I want to go for myself. So this time I went through myself the period of learning on how to file a student visa and how a legit student visa file should be. Um, I took 6 months. Okay, then this time, for the knowledge, for the sake of gaining knowledge on how to file visa, actually for a study permit, I would say in Canada, I went to different consultants to just to gain information, but not for filing visa. So this time I went through different consultants and gained knowledge on how they file visa, what documents they require. And then I searched myself. I set up all the documentations required, how to get the valuation, property valuation done, how to maintain your bank statement. So everything was done preferably, and I filed my visa and I got the visa during the pandemic where people were taking like IRCC was taking 1 year to get the study visa approved. I was approved in 3 months at that time.
Wow, that is quite a journey. I would say quite a journey, mashallah. More power to you, Shajiullah. I would just start with the questions now, and since you know that my channel is all about Canadian immigration, and these are the people who are waiting for the draws to happen. Draws are nowhere to be seen. These people, they have maybe they have a higher human capital, but because of their age, they are unable to secure the 481 CRS mark or such high CRS scores. And as we all know that PNP programs are a pain in the neck as well. Like there is only one or two provinces that basically have written out their selection criteria, and that too is only occupation based. And not all the people who are applying for Canadian immigration, they have those occupations. So I also tell them that if you are applying for Canadian immigration right now, then the better path and the right path is to go through the study permit first. Once you reach in Canada, complete your studies over there, and then you can get a job offer, and that job offer can help you land your immigration, your PR as well. So for that matter, I also recommend people that look for Atlantic provinces, province like Prince Edward Island, Newfoundland and Labrador, Nova Scotia, or New Brunswick. So I tell people to look for those provinces, look for universities in those provinces. So I guess that is the first step of applying for the study permit, that you have to get an admission in a university, and you have to select a university first that fits your criteria. So can you please share how to look for universities while being in Canada, while being in Pakistan, or while being in India or any other country? And how can we look for the right university according to our course, according to our choice, online, or if there is any other mean, please, can you please share that?
Okay, Alibai, when you are talking about like how to choose a select a particular university, how to select a particular course, that depends on a student who is applying to actually. If a student is applying to an engineering site, for instance, let's take an example. As per my knowledge, I've actually researched a thesis on oil and gas industry in Canada, right? So if you talk about an engineer who is involved into oil and gas, then for him, coming into Vancouver and Ontario, like Toronto, won't be a better choice, a good choice. For him, it needs to be a province where there are companies that are involved in exploration, right? Then I would suggest them to go for Alberta. Like, you need to pick your province to ensure that you consider PR, you consider Canadian passport. So for me, I was from the accounts and finance background. That is the reason I came to Vancouver, because Vancouver is an other North American financial hub for financial services in Canada. So you need to pick your university or a course depending where is your potential of chances getting higher chances of jobs, and then obviously higher chances of salary. Because if you are an engineer and you are coming to Toronto and Vancouver, you won't get that high salary bracket, right? You would probably get that in Alberta or like other provinces, I would say. But if you're from the finance and accounting background, if you are from the IT background, then these provinces where the population is high in Canada, the companies are high in Canada, you will probably get a high chance of getting into the job and high salary bracket. So I would say first search your profession where it is demanded in Canada. Other than that, you have two options. Either you go for a public university or you can go for a private university. The best part about a private university is that you get a lot of intakes. Like the university I did, I had 4 intakes in that university. Like I had a chance, if I'm not getting visa in the first intake, if there is a delay, I can get another chance after 3 months. So that is the best part about the private universities. But the bad part is that the fees of the private universities is like incremental, like it's a pretty high in comparison to public universities. Now, what is public universities? Public universities are majority of the government-owned universities. For example, let's take an example: University of British Columbia, Alberta, University of British Alberta, Newfoundland, University of Newfoundland. So these are some of the universities that are provincial owned. Like provinces have or government have this stake in it. So since majority of the Canadian students are even studying in these government universities, they don't prefer private universities. Private universities is majority of the international students. Now you will ask, like, what is the fee structure? So the fee structure of private universities is quite high in comparison to public universities. But getting into public university is difficult because like seats are low, competition is tough, Canadians are also there. So if you want to get into private university, your chances are high, but into getting into public university, chances are low, fees are low. But again, for the public universities, intakes are also less. Like there is hardly one intake or a two intake. So that's how it goes.
Great. Thank you for your answer. And it was such a comprehensive one. So I just wanted to know, you talked about public universities. So what are the typical requirements of those public universities? Because as you said that the fee structure is also lower than the private universities. Then why don't international students try for public universities rather than going for private universities? One reason you mentioned was 4 inclusions in a year for a private universities, but the public universities, they have a lesser number of inclusions, maybe twice a year or maybe once a year. Mm-hmm. I'm not sure about that. So can you please tell me what is the typical criteria for selection? Like a student has to have a certain band IELTS score, maybe a CLB 6, CLB 7, CLB 8. What is required for those public universities? And in terms of prior education, can the education be in a separate field, the prior education, than the one the person is choosing right now in that public universities? Can you please talk about the typical criteria of these public universities?
Look, it does not work like that. You don't need to have a good IELTS score to secure your admission in a public university. What you need to have is a prior relevant education and a good CGPA or a percentage. For example, let's take an example. There are 50 seats in a particular university for a particular program. Now, if you are in Pakistan, if you're in India, if you are in any other country in the world, you have a limited exposure to that country only. But when it comes to an admission or international education in Canada, people are applying in that particular university or a course from all around the world. And those students are preferably high with the CGPA or a percentage they scored in their high school or a graduation. So what the public university does is if they have only 1,000 applicants who wants to get enrolled into 50 seats, they would take up only those students who have a good potential, a good professional experience. I would say if a good percentage, a good high percentage, then they would select only those 50 candidates out of those 1,000 candidates. And you need to compete with all around the world, internationally people, globally people, right? So that is the point to consider. That is the reason. I don't think IELTS is the main reason, because people think if you need to score high IELTS in public university, that's not the case. That is something for a visa purpose, actually. Your IELTS is for the visa purpose, not for your admission purpose. It is a requirement, but it is not a criteria for a selection in the university. So that is why private universities has higher number of seats. For instance, 1,000 applicants are applying, they have almost 500 to 600 seats. But public universities and courses, they are limited. And there is a chance that
you won't get into public university because you're competing with like brilliant students all around the world. So that is the reason.
All right, thank you very much, Shajiullah. And I would tell everyone that we have this video series with Mr. Shajiullah. And in the next video, we're going to talk about the practical steps for study permits. In this video, we talked about the basic step of how to look for a university, how to look for a course. And in the next video, me and Shajiullah, we're going to talk about opening a GIC account, how to write a proper SOP, like these practical things that you need to have in order to apply for study permit. So we'll see you in the next video. Thank you everyone for watching. And please subscribe to Shajiullah's channel as well. The link will be in the description. Thank you very much, everyone.